Welcome back, everyone. Tonight, we're diving deep into one of the most emotional and dramatic chapters of Sullivan's Crossing Season 4, Episodes 7 and 8. And trust me, what starts as heartbreak slowly turns into emotional chaos, buried secrets, broken relationships, and decisions that could change everyone's future forever. Because by the end of these episodes, nothing at Sullivan's Crossing feels safe anymore. We begin right after the devastating breakup between Maggie Sullivan and Cal Jones, and honestly, the emotional damage is written all over both of them. The episode opens with Sedona Jones sitting inside Cal's cabin. Cal looks exhausted, emotionally drained, almost like he hasn't slept at all since Maggie admitted she still doesn't know whether she's in love with Liam. Sedona tries calming him down. She tells him it was just one kiss, but Cal immediately shuts that idea down. For him, this was never only about the kiss, it was about trust. Ever since Liam returned to Timberlake, Maggie slowly started pulling away from him emotionally. The lies, the hesitation, the secrets, all of it slowly destroyed the foundation of their relationship, and Cal can feel it. But before he can even process any of his emotions, his phone suddenly rings. It's Ben Nelson's attorney, and the news is terrible. Ben's bail request has officially been denied. That means he's about to be transferred to a detention facility. And suddenly, Cal throws himself into Ben's situation again, almost as if helping someone else is the only way he can avoid dealing with his own heartbreak. But what happens next changes everything. Over at the cafe, Maggie confides in Sydney Shandon, and for the first time, Maggie truly looks lost. Not confused, not conflicted, lost. She admits she hates herself for hurting Cal. She never wanted any of this to happen. She thought Liam was part of her past. But now she's realizing emotions don't disappear just because time passes. Sydney tries comforting her, saying they'll eventually work things out. But even Sydney doesn't sound fully convinced. Because deep down, everyone can feel this relationship may already be broken beyond repair. Meanwhile, Liam is making decisions of his own. In one of the most important scenes of the episode, Liam calls his publisher and rejects a huge career opportunity. The publisher warns him that he's making a massive mistake. But Liam quietly responds, "I won't know if I don't try." And the scary part? He's not talking about work. He's talking about Maggie. At this point, Liam has fully convinced himself that Maggie still loves him, and honestly, he may not be wrong. Back at the detention center, Cal and Sedona visit Ben, and this scene becomes emotionally devastating very quickly. Ben completely breaks down. He blames himself for everything that happened to Tracy. Through tears, he admits that before their mother disappeared, he told her she was a terrible mother and that he hated her. Now he believes those words pushed her over the edge. Cal tries reassuring him that angry kids say hurtful things all the time, but Ben can't let go of the guilt. And suddenly, Cal sees himself in Ben, another young person carrying emotional pain they were never supposed to carry alone. But no one expected what happens next, because while Cal is trying to save Ben's family, his own relationship is quietly collapsing. Back at the cabin, Maggie tries calling Cal, again and again, but he ignores every call. Finally, she leaves a voicemail asking for one thing, a chance to explain. And honestly, that single voicemail says everything. For the first time in a very long time, Maggie realizes she may actually lose Cal forever. Meanwhile, another relationship in Sullivan's Crossing is becoming impossible to ignore, Sydney and Amir. At first, Sydney tries keeping things professional. She tells Amir he's a good guy, but she needs to focus on herself right now. But the chemistry between them, it's undeniable. Every conversation feels loaded with tension. Every glance lasts slightly too long. And the closer they get, the more dangerous it becomes. Because someone else is already watching. And that someone is Rob. But before we get there, Liam makes the boldest move of the entire episode. He goes directly to Cal's cabin to see Maggie, and what he says next completely changes the situation. He tells Maggie he's still in love with her. Not just nostalgic, not confused, still completely in love. And then he says something even more dangerous. He believes Maggie still loves him too. Maggie immediately tells him to stop. But Liam doesn't back away. Instead, he places the signed divorce papers in her hands, and quietly tells her, "The choice is yours now." That moment changes everything. Because for the first time, Maggie realizes she may actually lose Cal forever.
The second half of the story slows down emotionally, but underneath the surface, tension is building everywhere. And the scariest part? Almost every character is hiding something. At the clinic, Maggie stares at the divorce papers Liam gave her, and suddenly, memories begin flooding back. We see flashes of the day she first met Liam, the excitement, the passion, the version of Maggie that existed before Timberlake, before responsibility, before stability. For a brief moment, Maggie looks almost nostalgic for the life she left behind. But then, Quincy Carlson interrupts her thoughts with good news. Tracy's fever has finally broken, and she'll likely be released from the hospital tomorrow. Maggie smiles politely and immediately throws herself back into work, because right now, helping patients is easier than dealing with her own heart. But while Maggie is trying to suppress her emotions, another storyline explodes unexpectedly. At the restaurant, Sydney catches Amir making a careless mistake with a fish delivery. Normally, it wouldn't be a huge deal, but Sydney suddenly snaps at him much harder than expected. Amir immediately realizes something deeper is wrong. He follows her into the freezer to confront the tension between them. And then, disaster strikes. The freezer door locks behind them. No staff, no phone signal, no way out. At first, they panic. But as the cold slowly intensifies, Amir tells Sydney they need to stay close together for warmth. And suddenly, the emotional walls between them begin collapsing. Sydney finally admits the truth. Rob warned her that Amir might be a player, that he can't be trusted emotionally. And Amir looks genuinely hurt. He explains that during his years running restaurants, he became obsessed with success and avoided real relationships entirely. But now, he realizes that lifestyle left him completely empty. And in that freezing room, surrounded by silence, they finally kiss. But what makes this scene so powerful isn't just the romance, it's the timing. Because both of them know this is a terrible idea, and somehow that only makes the chemistry stronger. Meanwhile, Sedona finally reveals her own shocking truth. Earlier, everyone believed Chris cheated on her, but now she admits something heartbreaking. She was actually the one who cheated. Cal is stunned. Sedona explains that her marriage became too safe, too predictable, and instead of appreciating stability, she became afraid of it. And suddenly, Cal begins connecting the dots, because Maggie might be struggling with the exact same thing. Cal represents safety, stability, peace. But Liam represents excitement, passion, unpredictability. And now Cal can't stop wondering whether he was simply too safe for Maggie. But what happens next changes Cal completely. He stands alone by the ocean, replaying Maggie's words in his head. There are no more secrets. Except now he knows that wasn't true, and the betrayal keeps growing heavier. At the same time, Liam unexpectedly shares coffee with Frank Cranebear at the outpost. Frank asks him about fixing one of the old cabinets earlier, and Liam quietly admits something important. It just felt good to be useful again. That line says everything about Liam's emotional state. For years, his trauma left him emotionally disconnected from life itself. But being around Maggie again is making him feel alive. Eventually, Liam asks Frank the question he's really trying to answer. Why did Maggie choose Timberlake? Why did she leave behind her old life? Frank smiles softly and says, because she realized she belongs here. And honestly, that sentence hits Liam hard. Because for the first time, he realizes he may already be too late.
At this point in the story, every relationship is beginning to crack, and no one is emotionally prepared for what's coming. Back at the clinic, Quincy notices Maggie is clearly distracted. At first, she insists she's fine, but Quincy doesn't believe her, so he tells her something deeply personal. The missing watch from the outpost mattered so much because it was the last gift his wife gave him before leaving. Instead of dealing with his own pain, he buried himself in work and focused entirely on helping other people. Then he gives Maggie one of the most important pieces of advice in the entire episode. Don't make the same mistake I did. And suddenly, Maggie realizes something terrifying. She's been avoiding her emotions instead of confronting them. At the same time, Sydney and Amir are unable to stay away from each other. Later that night, Amir visits Sydney at home to tell her Rob offered him a permanent position at the lodge, but there's one condition. The final moments of these episodes are absolutely devastating. Cal quietly tells Maggie something that changes their relationship forever. I can't be with someone who's holding part of themselves back.
Maggie begs him not to walk away. She tells him she loves him. And the painful part? She means it. But love alone isn't enough anymore, because uncertainty has already poisoned everything between them. Then, without yelling, without anger, without drama, Cal ends the relationship. And somehow, that quiet heartbreak hurts even more than a screaming argument ever could. He simply walks away, leaving Maggie standing there alone, crying, completely shattered by the realization that she may have destroyed the best thing in her life. And honestly, this ending changes the entire direction of Season 4, because now every major character is emotionally lost. Maggie doesn't know whether she belongs with Cal or Liam. Cal no longer knows whether love is enough to survive betrayal. Sydney and Amir are falling for each other despite knowing it could end badly. Sedona is trying to repair a marriage she broke herself. And Liam now believes Maggie may still choose him in the end. But hidden underneath all the romance and heartbreak, these episodes are actually about something much deeper. They're about fear. Fear of stability. Fear of regret. Fear of choosing the wrong life. Almost every character in these episodes is terrified that settling down might mean losing a part of themselves forever. And that emotional conflict is what makes these episodes feel so real, because sometimes the hardest choices aren't between good and bad. Sometimes the hardest choices are between two people you genuinely love for completely different reasons. And now, Maggie has to live with the consequences of not knowing what she truly wants. But something tells me this story is far from over. Because in Sullivan's Crossing, the emotional storms always arrive quietly before they destroy everything. And honestly, the biggest heartbreak may still be coming. If you enjoyed this full breakdown of Sullivan's Crossing Season 4 Episodes 7 and 8, make sure to subscribe to the channel, turn on notifications, and let me know in the comments, Team Cal or Team Liam, because after these episodes, choosing sides just became impossible.